Now, hand it over to you. Please start, sir. Please start.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please start.
Yes. So, very good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Venkatesh Karthikeyan, first year Community and Family Medicine postgraduate from AIIMS Patna. I'm glad to welcome doctors from different AIIMS, and I'm thankful for joining on this wonderful Sunday morning. We all know how awesome and prosperous community medicine is, but we aren't pretty much sure the status of community and family medicine, which is relatively a new branch. In order to enlighten us on this topic, Dr. Aviraj sir, a CFM PG from AIIMS Bhopal, has taken this initiative to gather the PGs of different AIIMS to discuss the present and the future of CFM. We have three panelists with us today, Dr. Preeti Usha ma'am, Dr. Kranti sir, and Dr. Deepak Kumar sir. Dr. Preeti Usha ma'am is a senior resident from Department of Community and Family Medicine, AIIMS Rishikesh. Ma'am completed MD-CFM in AIIMS Rishikesh and currently working in the same institute. Ma'am did her MBBS from BVV Sangha Nilanjappa Medical College, Karnataka. And ma'am has many national and international publications to her credits. We are privileged to have you here, ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Venkatesh, and good morning, everyone. And thank you for this beautiful introduction. And thank you for organizing such a beautiful platform to interact with our junior colleagues. And I welcome you all to this meeting.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next panelist is Dr. Kranti Kumar Reddy, sir, who's again an MD-CFM from AIIMS Rishikesh. Sir is currently a consultant family physician in GBA Hospital, Narsaraopeta. He's also an executive member of Indian Forum for Medical Research and the State Best NSS Volunteer Awardee. We are glad to have sir. Sir will be joining us in a few moments. And our third panelist is Dr. Deepak Kumar sir. Sir is also belonging to 2017 July batch of AIIMS Rishikesh and has completed MD in Community and Family Medicine. Sir will also be joining us shortly. So, ma'am, actually, I have noted down a few questions from my colleagues and from my seniors, and I would like to discuss it with you here, ma'am. Before asking those, I would like the participants to start typing their questions in the chat box, and we will answer it at the end. Are we good to proceed, ma'am?
Yes, Dr. Venkatesh, proceed.
Thanks, ma'am. So, ma'am, first question is that what is the concept of CFM and how does it actually differ from community medicine?
Okay. So as far we have learned, community medicine is a successor of public health, what we knew from earlier. Community medicine is a successor of public health or community health, or you can say earlier it was said preventive and social medicine. So it was mainly preventive part. And we can say prevention of disease and promotion of health was its main ingredient. And now family medicine has been included. We can understand like this separately: a community medicine, family medicine, and why we are combining the community and family medicine. So mainly preventive part, and in community medicine, we were mainly educationists, researchers, then statisticians, epidemiologists. Means for any disease or sick people or healthy people, we were gathering data, and we were recognizing as a what is need of the people. But the curative part was lacking in this community medicine. Family medicine is a part of community medicine. In family medicine, the unit of our concern is a family, which is a part of community. So we can say family medicine is a part of community medicine. But in till now, in our country, family medicine is mainly being taught as a internal medicine. It's not being combined with community medicine. So it was mainly curative. Preventive part was lacking. And now in community and family medicine, we are joining both. Means you people might have learned till now ki in family medicine, we are first contact to ongoing treatment is there in family medicine. So we can say that family medicine, by combining family medicine and by making community and family medicine is a branch, it's more beautifying, and rather you can say it's more useful for all of us, and we can think about the disease, the sickness, and the people, and accordingly we can treat them also. So it was by saying.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Very well explained. Ma'am, what are the career opportunities post MD community medicine?
Once again,
what are the career opportunities post MD community medicine? You were saying epidemiologist, statistician, and all. Can you please elaborate a bit, ma'am?
Okay. Post MD community and family medicine, you can join both as a community medicine expert and family medicine experts. Both roads are open for you. If you want to be a perfect clinician with understanding of community medicine, you can work as a clinician. You can open your own clinic. You can practice as a general physician, because in current scenario, we are seeing general physicians are vanishing. Earlier, after MBBS, people used to do general practice. But after that, super specializations, it has been so surged that we can say all medicine has been fragmented, and people are caring about our organ system, but care of the whole patient is lacking. So as to care the whole patient from start to ongoing treatment, family physicians are needed. Or you can say general physician, family physician, community physicians, all are synonyms. So you can start practicing, or you can be in academics, you can join, like I have joined senior resident, later I can be assistant professor, and you can also join to WHO as a program manager, or many posts are there with a good salary. Or you can, as a family physician, you can join in super specialty hospitals like Dr. Kranti Kumar Reddy is there. He'll explain it better. Or if you want to do super specializations, like in AIIMS Rishikesh, for family physician or community physicians, you can do after MD community and family medicine, you can do DM high altitude medicine, or many courses are there, like certificate courses are there, or fellowships are there. In family medicine, many fellowships are there, like in diabetology, geriatric medicine, you can do fellowships. Or if you want to join in DNB, so you can, if you want to do double MD community medicine or family medicine, it's okay. If not, then you can join super specialty also, because you have family medicine degree. DNBSS you can join. So many opportunities are there. In fact, you have much more opportunities than single community medicine degree. Okay. So it's better what we have said.
Thank you, ma'am. Very well answered, ma'am. Actually, our next panelist, Dr. Kranti Kumar Reddy sir, has joined the meeting. So once again, I would like to introduce him to our audience. Sir is an MD CFM degree holder from AIIMS Rishikesh and currently a consultant physician in GBR Hospital, Narsarapeta. He is an executive member of Indian Forum for Medical Research and State Best NSS Volunteer Award. We are glad to have you here, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Karthikeyan. Actually, I would like to add some few points which were told by Dr. Preeti. Actually, the concept of community and family medicine came after the establishment of the newly formed AIIMS. Okay, what they want to do was, instead of just community medicine, they want to have a comprehensive bench. Okay, in earlier days, it is like the general physician you used to treat, and if there is any need, the patients are going to specialists, whether it is general medicine or neurology, cardiology, or anything. But that concept of having a referral system was lacking. Okay, just to so the government has thought, the Ministry of Family Welfare and Health has thought that there needs to be a comprehensive system which will enable the presently upcoming physicians to give a comprehensive healthcare to the patients. Okay, this is the main concept behind community and family medicine, and this is not a new concept. Okay, it is not a new concept. Many other countries already have this community and family medicine in force, and some other countries have community medicine separately and family medicine separately. Ultimately, the goal of this branch was to get a comprehensive specialist so that he can give the primary care and he can refer the patient whenever it is necessary. So that is the concept of community and family medicine. Just to replenish the previous family physicians, they don't have a separate degree as family physicians, but we do have some doctors, our family doctor. So nowadays the concept is going away. So to have that idea of a family doctor, so instead of the family doctor, we are getting family physicians. So what is the difference between family medicine and community and family medicine is,
sir, I think you are muted, sir. Dr. Krantikumar, sir, I think you are muted, sir.
I'm sorry, I just got a call. Okay. So the thing is, you have the preventive part, which is not that much taught in family medicine. In family medicine, preventive medicine has a single paper only. Okay, and you are having, along with that, we are having the family medicine part also. Okay, so the syllabus for family medicine was entirely covered by us. Along with that, we are having the community medicine also. So what we have a benefit here is, we were told much about the programs, much about the vaccinations, much about the research methodologies, and along with that, we are studying the family medicine by entering our OPDs, running our family medicine OPDs, and having posting in the other departments, super specialty departments and specialty departments and subspecialty departments. We are getting an upper hand with that. Okay, I don't know about the other people's curriculum, but at AIIMS Rishikesh, for our batch we have posting for entirely 1 year of posting in the other departments, specialty, super specialty, and subspecialty branches. And then for the entire 3 years, we are running the family medicine OPD, and the peripheral centers OPD were also run by the PG students. So we got a lot of exposure in seeing the patients in general as a general physician, and with subspecialty and super specialty posting, we got an idea when to refer and where to refer a patient. Okay, first the concept is, if you're a family physician, the main thing which you should know is whether the patient can be treated by you or not. If he can be treated by you, till how much you can treat that patient, means what is the severity, up to which severity you can treat that patient, and then you should know when you should refer that patient also, and where should you refer that patient. It is not like you got a patient which is who is having CVA, and you have treated him up to the chronic stage. If there is an acute onset of the chronic CVA, then it is not like that. We will just send that patient to a general physician and then he will send it to a neurologist. So how you should learn is whether I should send this patient to a general means internal medicine fellow, or should I send this patient directly to the neurologist fellow. Another concept is, if the patient is having seizures. So whether you should differentiate whether it is a organic cause or a psychological cause. And then you should send the patient to a psychiatrist or a neurophysician. So that level of competency you should achieve. Then only you can practice like a family physician. If you don't know and you are just referring the patient just like that, thinking that this is not my case, then I can send this patient to some other one. Whether it will be a general medicine fellow or a neurosurgeon, neurophysician, or a oncologist, it should not be like that. Your concept you should not be a transit point. You should be the person who is deciding. You should not be the person who is transiting, bypassing. You should be the person who is deciding, okay, this patient will go to neurophysician. After that, after the acute phase is finishing, he should come to me and you should counsel the patient like that only. Okay, for this condition, I am referring it to you. After that, please come back to me. I will decide. Means if you are telling the patient like this, then he will get a confidence in you. Okay, this doctor knows what to do and how should it go. And so it is better for me to come back to him. After getting the treatment, it is better for me to come back to him so that he can guide me better. So you should give the patient that much of confidence that, yes, my guy knows everything about me and he knows everything about the treatment. So your competency should be growing in such direction. And some of the, if you are looking for the opportunities in community medicine, so this is the dual benefit. If you are doing only family medicine, you will be this family physician. For our degree, that is community and family medicine, the other benefit is, if you want to enter into the programs, you can directly enter into them. Means your orientation should be in that way. Either you want to become a family physician or a community and family physician. So if you want to become a community physician or a preventive care specialist, then make sure that your direction is in that way. Because you can't put your legs on two boats simultaneously. So if you want to become a community physician or a program manager, ensure that your direction is in that only. So your thesis should be in that way, so that the person who want to employ you should know that, yes, this person know about something about public health and this person is useful to you. Your research publications should be in that way only. Okay, like in programs or in preventive aspects or innovative ideas in in improving the healthcare. So your research prospects should also be in that way only, so that your career will be molded towards that way. And if you felt bored or if you felt that no, I can't do this, then you can shift into the family medicine prospect with some training and with some guidance from your seniors or from the consultants. So it is a dual benefit to all of us. And is there anything which I should add? Means we can answer the questions later, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, I mean, as a continuation of whatever you said, I would like to ask, as a PG resident, I don't, at the moment, being a first year JR, I don't have much of an idea where I'm actually interested in. So PGs like me, what should they do in order to identify what is their area of interest in such a vast ocean of community and family medicine?
My suggestion is, when you are joining itself, you should get an idea. Means already in 5.5 years, you have studied the entire medicine, and in the internship itself, you got an idea, okay, how I should go in my future. Means whether I should be treating patients or I should go into research methodology. So for that, what I can suggest is learn from your seniors and read some experiences, so that you will get an idea. You have to read some experiences, because you are not that much experienced. So if you want to decide your career path, you should talk to yourself and you should read about the experiences of the seniors.
Yes.
And it is you who should decide whether I am capable in handling the patients, or my purpose is a little bit higher. It's not just a single patient. My purpose should be community, or my purpose is a little bit higher in preventive care. So that should be the spark which should be generated from you yourself only. So to get that spark, my suggestion is read about the subject, read about the experiences of your faculty or seniors, and then retrospective analysis about your experiences and your exposure will get to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Very well explained. Sir, next question I would like to take it with Preeti ma'am. Ma'am, as sir said, if I'm identifying my area of interest, for example, if I'm identifying research is my area of interest, then what should I do in order to develop mastery in this field? Preeti Usha ma'am.
Okay. First of all, in continuation with Dr. Kranti Kumar Reddy, I'd like to say, in 1.5 years, you will be able to decide what do you want actually by reading, because you have to read everything, and you by that time you will understand what is your understanding and what is your liking, disliking. You will yourself you will be able to decide what do you want. And your next question is how to improve in research, right? Okay. So for improving research, first of all, you have to master in epidemiology and statistics. Statistics, if you are not much better with statistics, then it's okay, but you have to do. When you will start writing and interacting with seniors or faculty, you will learn, you will start learning, because we were also not knowing anything. In fact, in research, I was very much not interested also. But later, we developed the skill gradually. So by doing, we will learn.
Sir, Dr. Kranti Kumar sir, would you like to add anything, like how to develop mastery over the subject when we found out the area of interest?
Hello. I would like to add something to what the question, what Preeti has told. How you should develop your research attitudes by reading the articles. Okay. So, what is the result and what is the outcome? What is the conclusion is not necessary for us. Okay. We should concentrate on the methodology. So, when you read an article, go to the methodology part and read that. Okay. By reading that, you will get to know what is the defect done by the researcher. So what else can be improved in that particular research? What are the statistical analysis done by that particular study, done in that particular study? And you should analyze and you should, what do you call is, critical appraisal of that article. Your main focus should be on the methodological part. So you should critically appraise the methodology part, and you should identify what is the good that is obtained by this methodology, and what is the thing that they did correctly, and what are the things they did wrongly, and what are the things they can improve in that research paper. So research paper is a representation of a research study. So if you are critically appraising a paper methodology, then you are critically appraising the research study, and you will be getting know what. So by these are the experiences of a person who has done a research. So by critically appraising those experiences, you will learn. So like Preeti told, you should get to know about the subject perfectly, and then you should start critically appraising the articles and research studies. So the basics should be developed, and after that, your entire thing should be based upon the experiences and your analysis. So Okay, let us suppose you read an article about some thesis. Sorry, you read a thesis of your faculty. I'm just giving an example. So it is a 2-year work of your faculty. So you will just go to the methodology part and you will see. So what was done by him? So what is the analysis done by him? How he has done that analysis and everything. And we will just start from the sample size aspect itself. Aims and objectives itself. Aims and objectives. So these are the aims and objectives. So this is his area of study. So whether something can be added to the aims and objectives, so that the study can be much more better. Or is there any are there any aims and objectives which should be removed from the study because it was already done and putting an effort for 2 years on the already known topic was not good. So you should do like that. And after that, you will be doing your study population. Is the study population apt for this aims and objectives? Is it correct or not? So if it is not apt, then what should be added in the study population? And then your sample size, is it done correctly or not? So the proposed study is this, and is the sample size calculated based upon that or not? So if you are critically appraising those articles or research studies, you will learn. You will learn from the mistakes, you will learn from the experiences. So only your research aptitude will be developing and help your colleagues. So you are from CFM. So every colleague of you, right from your first year, will be expecting that you should help him in his research projects. That thing I'm well aware. So I too got many requests, and I think you people are also getting those requests from your seniors, your colleagues and your juniors of the other branches. So you should never ever tell them that no, I won't help you or I am not able to help you. Just take a look at his proposal, see what you can do, and if you are unable to do that, take that guy to your senior or your faculty. Okay, during the discussion, you should also be there because you don't know that thing, right? So if you want to learn, you should be there in the discussion. And if the faculty is good, we will allow you to add some points. Okay, and the faculty will also add some points and develop a plan for this research project with him, so that you will know. So being just a public health consultant will not be sufficient for us. So we have a lot of colleagues who are doing the randomized control trials also, retrospective studies also. So a lone community physician or a community medicine specialist cannot do any research. So because you need some clinicians also, you need some specialists also. So to do that, you should be having contacts, and you should be doing it from your junior residency itself. There is no need to feel panic, or there is no need to feel intimidated. So if you don't know, better tell him that this much I can know. If you are willing, then we can go to a faculty. I will be accompanying you. So you take him and do as much as help you can do for that guy, so that you will learn from that experience. So my concept is like that only. Whenever any of my colleagues came to me for some help in the research, I used to study that research proposal. I would add what are the points that can be added, and I would be very blunt. Okay, regarding I don't have any hesitation, because he is not from a department. If the professor is telling something which is not good, I will directly tell him that okay, this is not correct. Your area of proposal is this much. Your area of proposal is being a retrospective study, and your sample size is not according to it, or your study plan is not according to it. I will tell that bluntly, because if I want to do some good to him, later after 2.5 years, he should not blame you. You should be telling this to me at the time only. My entire 2 years study was wasted. So give your opinion, but not adherent to it. So you should give your opinion bluntly. You should consult your faculty about your opinion and about his study. and leave the rest to them only.
Okay.
So your aptitude, research aptitude will be improved by doing it. Learn the basics and start doing it. Start helping. But another advice of me is don't involve too much in your colleagues also. So your opinion is as a consultant only. You'll be giving consultation to them, and then it is up to their wish. And don't. Another suggestion was don't overwork for others. If you are not getting any benefit, give your opinion and leave. If you are getting a benefit, like whether he wants to include you in his as a co-author, it is better to help them. But don't means it is like don't work without any purpose. Whether you are getting knowledge or not, you should ask them whether if you want to publish it, can I be a co-author in your paper? So at least you should get some benefit from them. Academically, so you should get some benefit. So my suggestion is, if anybody comes to your help, give them your opinion, and if they want much more help from us, ask them directly. So I am doing this much. Will I be a co-author for you? Whether it is first, second, or third, it doesn't matter. But ask them. Don't do anything for free. Learn something. Up to first year and second year, you will learn a lot more than them. And after that, if you are expert in something, don't do anything for free. That is my suggestion. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Very well explained in a practical way. My next question is to Preeti ma'am. Ma'am, what are the books that we should study as a PG resident of community and family medicine?
See what I have studied for community medicine. Park, so first you have to read 2 times at least, and after that, nutrition book is very nice for reading for community medicine part. And for family medicine, I have read thoroughly John Murtag's. Many people read Rahul also, but I have read John Murtag's. And if you have to refer something, you refer that. And for hospital management, starting with you can read, but if you have better books available for hospital management, you have to read that. But it is very crude and you will understand, but it's not, you can say it very nicely. And for sociology, many things you have to search on internet, because we didn't find a good book for sociology. And other topics, epidemiology, we read Leon Gordis. Then for statistics, 2-3 books of that I used to share. Like Dawson's is there. You can read Dawson's for biostatistics. And means I will say first, whatever you start, read it thoroughly, so that you have the concept. I think Dr. Kranti will be better enlightening on some question banks and all. Dr. Kranti, I think you will be better.
Want to read for community medicine? You should read everything. That is my suggestion. Because there are no standard textbooks for community medicine. Some of my professors used to tell me that you should read OTPH also. So Oxford Textbook of Public Health. So it is a reference book. You cannot read that entire book for if you start reading now, your entire 3-year course will not be sufficient to complete that OTPH. It is that much huge books, huge volumes. So better to differentiate different books for different concepts. So to know about our public health administration and everything, you should read part. If you want to study about epidemiology, you should read from Leon Gordis. If you want to have statistics, there are multiple books. Dawson is best. Beth and Dawson is a good book. And there are some other books. I think I had a link for the books repository. I will share with you people later. A Google Drive for all the books of community medicine. had an online access. I had downloaded them, and I have made a repository. If somebody wants to add that, they can add also, and I will share the link with you people. And my suggestion is read standard books. Okay, don't go for shortcuts. Read standard books. Develop your concept in the community medicine. Because if you read standard books, then only you can get to know about what is going on and what is the latest. So if you're not reading the standard books, you will be 10. If you are reading the standard books, you will be 5 years backward from what is going on now. If you are reading some substandard books, you will be 15 years backwards from what is going on now. So if you want to get up to date, read journals. Okay, not Indian journals. International journals are there. A lot of international journals and public health are there. If you want to get new concepts, if you want to know about new research methodologies, if you want to know about new public health concepts, then read those books. Read those journals, international journals and public health. There are a lot of journals available. So go through them. And the suggestion, there are a lot of online education platforms. Like WHO, there is one education platform on WHO. They are putting a lot of courses. You can go through them for the public health and administration point of view also. And there is some website called as edx.com, where you can get a lot of courses on the public health. You can finish them. So my idea is, if you want to become a public health expert, then you should move more towards online. So your standard books are for your foundation, and if you want to upgrade and if you want to be up to date, get more through the online processes. So online courses are there. A lot of online courses which are providing advanced things about the public health are there. So go towards them. Use your phone regularly, not for your social media, not for your chatting, but to know about new concepts. So whenever a question was asked about you, you should search it immediately in the PubMed or some in the public on a resourceful platform, so that you can know about it immediately. So if somebody is telling you about that concept, you will listen and you will leave it. If you search for it and if you read about it, then you will remember it for sure. So better depend upon a lot of updated sources than on the textbooks. And for family medicine also, Murtaz is best. And some other family medicine book is also there, in international one, Elsevier का, जो प्रीति ने बताया पहले. What is that book, Preeti? Murtaz, and other one is on family medicine.
Many more books are there. Books on family medicine.
And you should get ideas from these Harrisons also. So if you want to be some basic surgical scripts, then read some standard surgical textbooks. And if you are in some other posting, then talk to them, know about the general diseases which they are getting, and read them about them. My idea to develop a good family physician is, if you are seeing the cases in the OPD, if some case is interesting to you, read about that case, read about that disease in standard textbooks, and then what is the ongoing research about that, what is the current treatment, CMDT books are there. So read about the disease in that CMDT, so that you will be updated.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I like something. For programs and policies, I think site of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is a scenario, and many things you can get from that. If you are reading some books on programs and policies, it might be not updated, but that site will be always updated. You can read from that, all programs.
Can you please repeat, ma'am? Ministry
of Health and Family Welfare site.
Okay. Ma'am, next question I would like to ask you is that what is how the exam pattern of CFM is different in different aims, and how to maintain a common question bank from all our CFM exams? Can you please enlighten us on this?
For question bank, I think in our college, it's all objective type pattern. So we used to read thoroughly. Each and every line we had to read because they used to make questions by themselves. So any question can be asked to you. For us, I think we didn't maintain any question bank, but we had some ready-made question banks from online, which we read for family medicine. And for community medicine, we used to read this UG wala question bank, but it was not much more helpful for us. For basic only, it was helpful.
Okay. And
so, bank, if you want to make, you all can join together, and whatever exam is going on, you gather all questions and make a question bank. You will have to do it yourself.
In AIIMS, Rishikesh, it is completely objective exams, like objective questions, ma'am, or you write?
It is completely. This completely objective pattern.
Yes, final exams it's completely objective, and I think for internal nowadays they have included some 5 marks questions or 2 marks questions also. For finals, it is completely objective.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Next question I would like.
So if you want some exam pattern, we are not that much good for that. So you should consult your seniors who had given the exam. So because our examination concept is completely different from other aims. So we are not that much helpful.
Other people might help you. Other aims people might help you. What are their pattern? You can gather the questions. You can make a question bank. And at least before exams, you can revise them.
Okay. Ma'am, and I would like to know about what is the benefit of having memberships in associations like IAPSM and other relevant associations, and what is the role of conferences these associations conduct? Should I participate in those conferences? Should I take membership of those associations?
Yeah, definitely. Starting from your these seminars and journal clubs and your case presentations and going to these conferences also, these all are helpful. Like you were asking to improve in research also. So in these journal clubs were very helpful, and seminars in gaining the knowledge, and case presentation in improving yourself for taking your stage and how you are going to deal with the patient. And like that only, if you are going to conferences, you will get many updates about the disease. And after that, if you will get a certificate, it will improve the skill also.
Okay.
So definitely it is helpful.
Being a member of any association is a benefit to you only. Okay. So my suggestion is take membership from my IPHA, which is a wider body. Because IPHA usually covers the members of IAPSM and other public health experts also. So if your faculty is insisting, then take IAPSM. I won't object it. But attending conferences is a must for us. So being a guy in a public health, networking is a must for all of you. So if you are isolated, then you are gone. So being in network is an essential thing to become a public health expert. So conferences are a good opportunity to get an exposure, to get some new networks. So it is a must for you to attend the conferences. My suggestion is attend whatever conference that is possible for you to attend. So if your faculty is telling that go to this conference, just go. So means spending 10,000 for a conference is not a matter for you. My idea is it doesn't matter, because you will be getting much more benefit than that, and you are spending those amount some or other way if you don't attend that conference also. So better do it in a purposeful way. You will get more friends. You will be getting an opportunity to meet a lot of experts in the group, and you will get to know about what is happening around you. So being isolated in your department itself will not tell you anything about what is happening around. So reading news, reading about journals will add some much. But if you want to get more exposure, conferences are a best gateway. Go to the conferences, chill, learn to the experts, and develop your network. And anyhow, it will be a relief for you now. From day-to-day departmental activities, you are going to your conference, you are getting completely rooted out from your department, and you are enjoying. So just enjoy the conferences. Being a PG student, you should be eager to go to the conference. Okay, it is a time. It is a time where you get time to get exposure to all these type of events. So you are the tomorrow's leader. So if you are not attending the conferences now, you are not taking a membership in the associations, then how can be a leader in the coming future? So my suggestion is take the memberships. IPHA is a must. IAPSM is your optional, and IEA, Indian International Epidemiological Association, is a must for you. So take those memberships. It is good for you only. So if you are attending the conferences with those memberships, you will be getting a rebate of nearly 1,000 rupees as a membership access. You are getting a membership discount of nearly 1,000 rupees for those conferences. You will be getting privileges. So it is better to attend the conferences and get memberships also.
Okay.
Those are really useful for you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, and next question is that, is MD Community and Family Medicine recognized by National Medical Council and the state medical councils? If not, what should we do? If, for example, I come from Tamil Nadu, if it is not recognized by my state medical council, then what should I do?
Actually, what the thing is, our MD Community and Family Medicine was recognized. AIIMS Rishikesh means it is a duty of the medical council, Indian Medical Council, to recognize the degrees. So AIIMS Rishikesh MD Community and Family Medicine was recognized under MD Community Medicine only. It is not under MD Community and Family Medicine separately. It is recognized as MD Community Medicine, but our certificate will be MD Community Medicine and Family Medicine. So you cannot join as a faculty as a family medicine specialist, but you can join as a faculty as community medicine. You can join in the community medicine department. And in coming future, if there is more interest in developing the branches of community and family medicine, then your experience will be adding as a community and family medicine faculty only, and you can directly join as a professor somewhere. Okay. So your degree as MD CFM should be recognized by Indian Medical Council or NMC. There is no role of state medical council to recognize your degree. Your degree should be recognized by the National Medical Council now or Indian Medical Council as early.
Now it is recognized or yet to be so?
Means it depends upon the institute, right? So our AIIMS case, MD Community and Family Medicine was recognized. So your institute should send for the proposal telling that we have started this course as MD Community and Family Medicine. Give recognition to that. Okay. So if it is earlier Indian Medical Council, there is a parliamentary act telling that any degree offered by AIIMS like institute should be recognized. Yes. Okay, under some other, whether it is directly under in that particular specialty or as a specialty as outside. So there are a lot of degrees given by AIIMS Rishikesh. It is MD Community and Family Medicine. AIIMS Delhi, it is MD Center for Community Medicine. And some other places it is MD PSM, and some other places it is MD CM, and some other places it is MD STM. So all those degrees are recognized as MD Community Medicine by the National Medical Council. Means Indian Medical Council earlier. So your college should be sending the draft that our college has started this degree, college MD Community and Family Medicine. It can be recognized under community medicine. So then they will give recognition to your degree. So no medical council has a right not to recognize your degree. So they should recognize your degree as given by the AIIMS Institute. It is a parliamentary act. So about the NMC, you should read about it because I don't have that much idea because Indian Medical Council, IMC has recognized our degree. So now NMC has came. If your application was sent earlier itself to the IMC, you should check it in the IMC website. Now NMC website.
Okay. Preeti ma'am, would you like to add something in this question, ma'am? Like recognition of CMDCSM?
But as per I know, initially, as we all know, it's a new branch, so some difficulties were there. But now in Uttarakhand, in a state medical council, it's recognized, and in Bihar also it's recognized.
Okay.
Because Deepak has done his registration in Bihar Registration Council, so it is recognized as a MD Community and Family Medicine. There is no difference.
Okay. Next question I would like to direct to Kranti Kumar sir. So should we do DNB family medicine compulsorily post MD CFM in order to practice family medicine?
There is no need for that.
Okay. Ma'am, I would like to ask the next question to you. What are the prospects post MD community and family medicine in monetary terms?
Once again.
What are the prospects post MD community and family medicine in monetary terms?
Monetary terms. Monetary terms you were telling, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if you want to earn money, then if you want to be in colleges like as a assistant professor or senior resident, or you want to go ahead in that, in research a lot of money comes. You can say from lakhs to crores. And you can do research and you can make money also fairly, not by cheating or something. Fairly you can make money. And if you want to go in WHO, very nice amount they give, around 34-35 lakhs per year. So, and if as Dr. Kranti is working in super specialty hospitals, so they also give very nice amount. If you want to do your own practice, so it depends upon the area, how the load of the patient and people are there. So it will be according to that, like in UP and Bihar, if you do general practice, it's 7 to 8 lakhs per month for a general physician. Or I think money is not a problem in this area.
Okay.
Whatever way you can want in colleges, being assistant professor or senior resident, what I have seen, they are much more money than other department.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, next question is that is MD community and family medicine eligible to give DNB community medicine exam? Are we eligible to give DNB community medicine exam?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, ma'am.
You can do.
If your degree, so National Medical Council, if it is identifying it as MD community medicine, then you are eligible to give MD community, DNB community medicine exam.
Yeah. And what are the various fellowships which are available after doing MDCF? What fellowships can I do?
I have searched a lot, and there is no recognized fellowship by the NMC. So if you want to do some fellowships, then it is based upon the private medical universities fellowships. Most of them are mainly as mainly MBBS based fellowships only. So it is just to add your knowledge. You can do fellowship in critical care, echocardiography, preventive cardiology, and a lot of fellowships were offered in Apollo Hyderabad as for family medicine fellowships are there. And then Obs Gynae fellowships are there. Pediatric fellowship is there for 2 years. You can do those things just to enhance your knowledge, but they are not recognized by the National Medical Council. And other thing which you can do is, if you want to become a full-fledged family physician, CMC Vellore has some family medicine fellowship, which is very good fellowship which you can do. And then diabetes fellowship was also there, offered by CMC Vellore and many other private universities. So those are just to add some knowledge to give a better care to the patients. So as of such, there are no recognized NMC fellowships for community medicine or family medicine.
Okay. So, and do you see any uncertainties associated with the future of community and family medicine?
A lot.
Okay. Ma'am, what about you, ma'am?
I think it's you and all of us who are going to make it easier or difficult, because we are the initiators. How?
Okay.
So the uncertainties mostly include nobody knows about a branch. They will be asking, what is the CFM? Is it community medicine only? So CFM, if you are telling it is CFM, they will tell that community medicine only, right? So you should be able to answer that, because you are the fresh branch. So you should be able to answer that, no, ours is community medicine with family medicine. I'm a family physician, and you should prove it to the public or the persons who are hiring you that you are a better family physician. So then only will be striving in it. So to reduce the uncertainties, doing those fellowships is good. That's it.
Okay. Okay. So let's take last few questions from the audience. First question is that, are corporates having family medicine OPDs, or it is uncommon?
Common.
Okay. How common, sir?
No.
Like,
it is like earlier it is only general physicians who are running the OPDs, but now the family medicine is emerging, so we are seeing it commonly only. So mostly in 3-tier cities is most common, and in 2-tier cities and suburban and rural areas, it is just like a general physician, it's the MBBS doctor who was opening your family medicine clinic. So earlier MBBS clinic is an example of a family medicine clinic only. So he used to treat a 3-year-old kid to 90-year-old old man. So you are also doing the same thing. So it is not uncommon, but the nomenclature is new. That's it.
Okay. Okay, sir. Preeti ma'am.
People who want to join abroad, being with family medicine is much more better for them, because family medicine has very vast areas in countries like US. And
no. Actually, they should do their own degree. Our degree is not recognized. Means any degree which is done in India is not recognized abroad.
Like Royal College of Family Physicians.
So they are not recognized, right? Either it is DNB or MD. Our postgraduate degree is not recognized anywhere else. So we should be doing residency there also. If you want to go abroad. So if people are having any ideas about going abroad with this degree or any other degree, it is not sufficient. If you have done an MD in any other branch, internal medicine also, so your degree is not sufficient. You should be doing your residency at that foreign country also, except some OPEC countries like Saudi Arabia, Mauritius, Maldives. All these places, they will accept your degrees. But if you want to do in some allied countries like England, Australia, Canada, America, Germany, and anywhere else, you should be doing as as a junior resident there, and you should start your degree freshly. So don't be in that concept. So I did community and family medicine here, so I can become a community and family medicine specialist in America. Even if you do MD family medicine, even if you do DNB family medicine also, your degree is not recognized there. You should be starting fresh as a junior resident family medicine there also. You should be clearing all your steps, and then you should be clearing the residency exam. You should be joining as a junior resident there. You should get their degree, and then only you can practice the family medicine there. But in case of public health expert, it is not necessary because you are not going to treat the patients. So you join in any international organization, get a posting there, and or apply for the post there. You can join directly. But in clinical part, any degree is not sufficient to practice in G8 countries.
Okay, sir. And like Dr. Tapodip sir and Dr. Ria ma'am have asked few questions. I think most of it are answered. But Ria ma'am has further asked, what is the scope of research after MD-CFM? Could you please elaborate on that a little bit more?
The scope of research is like as community medicine only. So you should join in any other organizations or join as a faculty, start your research, do small projects, publish in recognized index journals, apply for ICMR projects then with your clinical expertise, develop your research etiquette, then only will get a research opportunities. So if you want to get a research grant, it's like anything earlier itself. So do some small research on your own, get some initial grants, then apply for the ICMR grants and any other international organization grants can be obtained like that only. So just as a community medicine postgraduate, finished postgraduate persons, you are having the same opportunities like that only.
Okay. Next question I would like to ask Preeti ma'am. Ma'am, after MD Community Medicine, what all things we can do to make our resume strong? Asked by Dr. Monica Gupta.
After MD CFM?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, to make your CV.
Yes, ma'am.
So first of all, you should improve your certificate courses or fellowship if you want to do, or then you should attend conferences, and you should be member of all these like IAPF, same or Association of Family Physicians, and gradually it will improve. And if you can assist in any research being done by your senior, any research, so it will improve your CV.
Collaborate with whatever opportunity you are getting. Then your CV will improve.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So it should not be after your completing your MD CFM degree. It should be while doing your MD CFM degree. So your CV should be developed right from your post graduation, not after the post graduation.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So, a question from Dr. Nilofer. Sir, MRCGP is recognized in India or not?
Oh, it is recognized in India.
Okay, sir. So next question is that like, will a management course help us in the field of community medicine, community and family medicine?
There is no need to do any management course because MD community medicine itself is a management course. So just develop your attitude in the management side while you are in post graduation. You will learn a lot about it, and then if you want it as a CV, added CV, then you can do. There are MD hospital administration courses available online itself. Just a 3 months contact program, I think. Madaversity is offering it, and a lot of other private universities are offering it. You can do that if you want to add some feather in your CV. Okay. Or else, there is no need for it.
Okay, sir. So, and what is the pay scale for entry-level family physician at corporates? This will be our last question.
Don't be disheartened. Okay, actually corporates will give you pennies. You will be getting as your stipend only, or more than it, it will be 90 to 1 lakh, not more than that. So it is better to...
Sir. What will be the entry-level pay if I'm...
It depends upon. Okay, if they are giving you a family physician clinic, if there is already an established family medicine department, you will be getting much more, like 1 lakh to 1 lakh 20,000 like that. If they want to use you, then it depends on them. Whether they are giving you as a MD fellow or your basic is starting as a, if they are using you as an MBBS junior resident only, then your pay will be less. If they want to give importance to a degree, then your pay will be like 1,10,000, 1,20,000.
Okay, sir. And there are many questions asked in the last few minutes. I think we have already answered most of them. So those questions which I have not taken up, I think we can share this recording to them after uploading in YouTube. So we are coming to the far end of the session. Thank you so much, Dr. Preeti ma'am and Dr. Kranti sir, all my seniors and batchmates from different aims. Now I request Dr. Aviraj sir from AIIMS Bhopal to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir.
Sir.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
Thank you, Venkatesh, for being there. Thank you, Kranti sir. Your inputs were very valuable.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes. And I thank everybody who has come over here on this platform. We would organize further more webinars and looking forward to the same. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you all. Thank you for the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are closing now. Team Clarinet, we can close the session.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.